Today on the Pro Church Tools Show, we'll be taking you behind the scenes on our most recent team building retreat.
We took our whole team to Phoenix, Arizona, and we spent the week together exploring and creating deeper bonds with each other.
And so in this episode, you'll get a ton of ideas on team building at your church, and we'll share with you what went wrong on our recent trip as well. Well, hey there, and welcome to the Pro Church Tools Show. This show is about helping you and your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm Brady Shearer, joined as always to my right, your left, it's Alex Mills.
Hello, hello.
You can subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast, and you can watch the video version on YouTube, youtube.com/Pro Church Tools. Make sure to subscribe. Hit the church bell to get notifications for new videos.
Yes.
Leave a comment. Hit the thumbs up.
All of it.
Peruse our playlists and other free content.
Yes.
There's like more than 500 videos on that channel.
So many.
Excellent content beyond this. But in this episode, we are going to be breaking down, giving you a truly behind-the-scenes look into our most recent team building retreat.
Yeah.
And what's unique about this particular episode is that there is going to be accompanying us talking and discussing a myriad of footage that was filmed on this retreat. We're going to cut to actual dialogue of what was happening on the retreat.
Yeah.
So if you are the type of person to listen to this episode, we're going to make it as best as we possibly can for a listening experience, but you will be missing out on the visuals and the B-roll of me and Alex partying it up in Scottsdale, Arizona.
You're going to want to see the clips of the Office Olympics.
Absolutely.
You're going to need to see that.
My outfit.
Yes.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
So we've done yearly retreats now. I think this is our third or fourth, but it's our second out-of-country, week-long, overnight retreat where we take the entire team along with significant others and we get a giant Airbnb, we rent it out, we all stay there for a week.
Yes.
It is a pressure cooker of emotions. It is intense.
It's a lot.
It's a series of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Extreme highs, and for some, extreme lows, which we'll get to as well.
Yeah.
But we get a lot of questions about the culture that we have here at Pro Church Tools. We got one just recently. Hey, tell me, how is it that you have this work environment and this atmosphere the way that it is? And I don't have any simple answers for building a great culture. There is a lot that goes into it, and it's unique per every different workspace.
And it doesn't happen by accident.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we are very intentional about doing, though, is creating unique and special experiences. And this retreat, this yearly retreat, is perhaps the pinnacle of that every year. I think that one thing I'm very bullish on is if you as a church have ever said something like this to your team, internally or from the stage on a Sunday, a weekend experience, if you've ever said something like, this place is meant to be a home and a family, and this place is special, and what we have is unique and it's rare. We say that about our culture as well, and one of the things that is so important to me is demonstrating that with experiences, with things that are actually rare and are unique and are different and are unusual and uncommon. And these retreats to me are one of the best ways to manifest that, because I can, in a Monday meeting, in any type of group gathering where I'm speaking to the team, be like, we're a family here, and this is not like other workplaces, and we're so glad and just so grateful. It's one thing for me to say, it's another for everyone on the team to catch that vision. And I felt like there were moments on this retreat, these light bulb moments where we'll get into the actual things that we did, just these moments where people in a new way understood, oh wow, I am really seen as family here.
Yeah.
This really is special. This really is unique. Now, what was your perspective? Because obviously, I'm the one that organizes and plans all of this.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking while you were saying that, at my church right now, we're going through a round of onboarding some new volunteers. And one of the teams I'm responsible for is the worship team. And so we're going to have some new people coming out. And if I just use that language as empty platitudes, hey, this experience you're going to have volunteering on this team is going to be amazing. You're going to feel like family. It's just, we're so tight-knit and whatever. And if I back that up by just having our team, play on Sundays and then not be in contact with each other until the next Sunday and just do it again and not prove the things that I actually said, even though I believe them, that would come across as disingenuous, and my team members probably wouldn't feel valued or happy or what have you. And so all of these things that we do that sometimes are extracurricular at Pro Church Tools, and sometimes are whatever the opposite of extracurricular is, intracurricular, which is definitely not a phrase. But a lot of this stuff is very intentional to prove that we are a family. We're super tight knit. What we have here is rare. And that's the feedback I get a lot from people in my family, people at my church, when I get the privilege of telling them about the work that we do here. When people come by the office and see the office, even just our office space itself, you can tell that like there's something really unique going on here. And when people ask, when I say, hey, I'm going to be away next week. Oh, where are you going? I'm going to Arizona. And they say, is it for work or for play? And I say, well, I mean, a little bit of both. Like it's with work. It's not a work trip. Like we're not going, it's not a Nucleus Media trip where we're going to film stuff. We're going away as a company to kind of get some rest, but also just reinvest in each other. And that's been one of the most special parts about working here and being a part of this team. And I think that's whatever team context you're involved in, whether it's at church, in the workplace, or somewhere else, that we're going to be able to learn a lot from the way we structure our team activities to incorporate into whatever team we belong to really back that claim up and turn our teams into more than just teams, but into little families.
To distill what I believe most about culture, vision, narrative, about creating a movement, there's two elements that need to happen. One is you need to be able to articulate the vision. So actually speaking and putting words to feelings is super important. On the other side, you need to actually demonstrate those words in real life to prove it. And so I think it's easy to think, well, if all we did was experience things, that would be enough. But I think there is something important about articulating it as well and having shared language that people can all use, because we have these feelings and these experiences. And then when we are able to articulate them, we have both of those. That's when you can truly establish culture that is special and rare, like Mr. Clean with hair. We're going to go through a bunch of different kind of rapid fire, spitballing takeaways from this retreat. The first was an anonymous Google form that I sent out to every person that was going on this retreat, asking for feedback, incredibly honest, that's why it was anonymous, from everyone that went on the previous retreat. And there were 3 questions in this Google form. It took me about 60 seconds to create. Incredibly easy. The 3 questions I asked were, what did you like about last year's retreat? Number 2, what did you not like about last year's retreat? And any suggestions for this year? The first 2 were required. The third was not. And I cannot begin to explain how helpful the feedback within this form was. And again, that's a testament to everyone on this team. It's very easy to fill out a survey, a feedback form, and just put in junk answers that don't have any meaning
What'd you
behind
like?
them.
I like the sunshine. Would you not like that one day that it was cloudy?
Exactly. Every single response was detailed, in-depth, and quite honestly, revealing in many ways. And we all have blind spots. One of the things that is most clear to me about team building is that no matter how tight-knit everyone is, and for our team, for a bit of context, I've known most of the people on this team for 15 plus years, and even those that I haven't known for that long, like Alex, we're incredibly close. Like, these are the closest people to me in the world, save for family, and half of them are family. It's like blood family. So we're incredibly tight-knit. And yet, when you get a group of people of any size that's maybe more than 4 together for an extended period of time in a single place, it's a pressure cooker, like I said, for emotions, and it is made for interpersonal conflict to arise. So it's incredibly important to not be naive to that and not think that, oh, we just love each other, like we're a great family. Like there is no one as close as us, basically. And yet, interpersonal conflict will still arise. And so this feedback was super helpful for identifying my own blind spots. For saying like, you know what, last year we did this, and I think a lot of people liked it, but for me, it made me a bit uncomfortable for these reasons. At the same point, my biggest takeaway from the feedback was people were pretty staunch in their beliefs on either end of the spectrum. What I mean by that was a lot of people said things like, well, what I loved about last year was chilling at the Airbnb, or living slow, general chill time with no agenda. And the other side was like, what was your highlights? This activity and this activity and this activity. And so I'm planning through this retreat and I'm putting together the itinerary and I'm thinking, okay, we need to have ample room for free time, but also scheduled activities. My solution to this, we do this on our Nucleus Media trips as well, where we're filming, is to heavily schedule the beginning of the trip and leave the end of the trip more free. So we were in Scottsdale, Arizona, direct flight from Toronto, about 5 hours, 13 people on the trip. We were there from Monday to Friday. The flight we took landed in Phoenix at about noon. And then we had to leave on Friday, which was a full travel day. You get no day. So we're there for about 3.5 days. The Monday and the Tuesday were very heavily scheduled because we are new to the area. We're new to the Airbnb. We're still kind of feeling out everything. Well, this retreat's going to be different than last year's. How's everyone feeling? You know, what everyone's mood is. What are we up for? And then for the Wednesday and the Thursday, I left a lot more open. Turns out our flight was delayed a bit. So one of the events that we had on Monday, I easily pushed to Thursday because there was free time there. So leaving free time at the end of a trip or a retreat or a team building activity is helpful because you never know what's going to come up. Something will arise, whether it's bad weather or a delay or people are just not feeling it. If you have the flexibility to move, that's helpful. And then once you've been in a place for a little while, you also learn more about it. We find this on our filming trips. We land in a place we're like, we have no idea. We've been there 3 or 4 days and suddenly we're like, oh, we need to adjust. So we build in that flex time.
And this feedback that you gathered was imperative because last year we went to California and it was our first international retreat with significant others. So kind of our first shot at this kind of retreat. We go up north every year. We just drive a couple hours up north, get a cabin in the woods, and those retreats are easy, right? But this was like the first big international retreat that we had done. We're all staying in the same place, and you planned it as best as anyone could have on their first try. But to get this feedback and from that first basically pilot and plan another trip this year that could be successful, the feedback was imperative. But to be able to get honest feedback, that form had to be anonymous, right? If it wasn't anonymous, we maybe would have given similar feedback, maybe would have left some things out, but to make it anonymous really gave everyone the opportunity to speak freely because you alluded to it. When you get a bunch of adults under the same roof in the same space, and especially adults that don't always spend a lot of time together, there's an opportunity for some interpersonal conflict or whatever. And so to be able to speak about that kind of stuff anonymously really helped everyone and especially helped you in the planning of this year's trip to kind of make some adjustments. You know, the whole schedule didn't have to be overhauled compared to what we did last year, but some very thoughtful adjustments turned into a really great retreat this year.
And to use a specific example of the differences between people that may not be visible on the surface, but the more you get to know people and the more you ask them questions are visible. I'll take your wife as an example, Rebecca, and me. Both Rebecca and I, on the surface, are extremely similar in our countenance, energy, and just general outgoing nature. Life of the party, look at us, aren't we awesome? And yet, Rebecca is like a pretty heavy extrovert, and I am more on the introvert side. And that can be deceiving. When you have my attention, when I'm with you in person, I am extremely outgoing. I'm well-spoken. These are the things that generally lend themselves to extroverts. But what most people didn't realize and was discovered by our team on the trip once I started detailing like my day-to-day schedule is like I spend almost 6 hours alone every single day.
Because that's how you recharge.
Exactly. My recharge is solo time, just me. And between going to the gym, working with the dogs in the morning, which doesn't count because they don't take any of the energy from me, and then eating lunch, I have about 6 hours alone every single day. So you get me 5 days in a row where I'm leading a team of like 13, 12 others and myself. Like that can be incredibly draining. And yet on the surface, like, oh, well, Rebecca and Brady, like they're like the same in that way.
Yeah, you would think without knowing that information, you would think, oh, they just want to be doing stuff, go here, there, and that's not true for one of you. And so we learned that we were just having some conversation about introverts, I guess, and that like just kind of came up, and it's like, oh, well, of course that makes sense. And so that's where that feedback really helps to plan a trip for 13 people that can appease 13 people, which is a challenge.
Another thing we did this year, second year in a row, was a collaborative Spotify playlist. And so what I do is I create a playlist that is private, but it's collaborative. So I can send out the private link to everyone on the team. And usually we do this several months in advance because you've probably experienced this when you're planning trips or you get excited about anything. Part of the enjoyment of an activity or an event in life is the activity itself. Equally exciting is the buildup and anticipation of the event coming up.
Sure.
And so we send out and create and curate this collaborative playlist where everyone can add any and every song that they like. My only rule this year, which did not exist last year, was that I was going to moderate some of the extremely explicit songs.
Right.
So some were removed.
Yeah.
But for the most part, this playlist is extremely eclectic and a gathering of all of our musical tastes.
Yeah.
There are, the top 40 bangers.
Sure.
There's a lot of hip hop and rap. There's a lot of worship on there.
Yeah.
A lot of quote unquote alternative or indie music. And the point of this is, well, one thing is just to expose yourself to music that you don't generally listen to. And what's cool is on the playlist, you can see who added which song. And so a song comes on if you're hitting, shuffle in your car or wherever, and it comes on, and you're like, oh, Alex added this. I didn't know that he liked this band.
Right.
And maybe you like that band as well, or maybe you are introduced to new music.
Sure.
I think about Mitchell's wife, Laura. She added this one song. It was one of my favorites. I had never heard of this artist. I had never heard of the song, and I don't know the name offhand. There was about 250 songs on this playlist by the end of it.
Yeah.
And then we also use that as the exclusive music that we play on the retreat.
Exclusive.
So when we're in our vans.
We forbid listening to anything else.
Exactly. When the speaker is on, when we're out at the pool, this is what's on. And we do allow for the flexibility and freedom to queue up tracks within the playlist when we're in a certain mood. So one morning we were cooking brunch at the Airbnb.
Yeah.
And so we queue up a bunch of like slow worship, just like chill songs.
Yeah.
And then at night, when we're like in the pool, we're queuing up like the higher energy, faster songs.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's like hit shuffle. And unless one song has randomly come up like 4 times and others haven't been played at all, you just gotta let it happen.
Yeah, this year's playlist was a lot more diverse than last year's playlist. I think more people contributed to it, which was
also
nice.
a little bit less of a tyrant.
And there were actually way more songs just by volume this year. And when we were listening to the playlist in the coming weeks before the trip, which is why we start collecting these songs early, so we can start listening to them, so maybe be familiar with some songs that you weren't previously familiar with before you actually get on the retreat. We were kind of having this conversation in the office, like, should we have 2 playlists? Should we break this up into like morning to early afternoon playlists, which you made mention of, like, so maybe some more chill music, and then have like a hype playlist for later on? Because last year's playlist was like mostly just hype music.
Well, last year I took the Barney Stinson approach to building a playlist where there should be no highs and lows.
Right.
It's just a constant ascent into insanity.
Yes. So we toyed around with the idea of separating this playlist into two different playlists, but the queue feature on Spotify actually was all we needed to do. Whoever's phone was playing on the Bluetooth speaker just needed to be responsible for queuing up songs that suited that moment. And like you said, we had conversations about music, especially me and Tristan, because we share some similar tastes in music, but we had conversations about music because a song was playing and it's like, oh, I like that song, but I didn't add it. So it's like, hey, who added that song? And now all of a sudden we're talking about music, we're learning about new music, and there's a nostalgia element, and I'm sure everyone who's listening can identify with this. There's a nostalgia element that we can't quite identify with yet. But in 6 or 8 months, when we hear one of these songs, be like, oh, I remember that moment that we were in Phoenix. There's a song in particular that you and I just brings us right back to a literal place on La Jolla Boulevard in California, because music just has that nostalgic element. So this playlist served to really kind of create memories linked to music for the future, which is awesome.
Dude, that's happened a couple times with us and Drake.
Yes.
Because the song you're talking about is Nice for What, which was a single that dropped when you, me, and our wives were in La Jolla.
Yeah.
And then another time when we were in Utah.
Exactly.
The day we were driving home, back to Las Vegas
the
to fly
whole
home.
album drops.
Scorpion drops that morning.
Yeah.
And so we listened to the whole album driving to Vegas.
Yeah.
And so that song comes on, and songs, as we all know, can serve as time capsules.
Yes.
You hear it, and suddenly you are brought back into that moment. And so that's a great point that I'm glad you bring up. We create the playlist in that way where some songs will become linked with this specific trip.
Now, our first trip last year in California, that Airbnb had a banging sound system.
It did.
Just speakers everywhere in the house. This year, this house, maybe because it was bigger, but like was not equipped with a sound system, it had literally everything else that you could ever imagine, but it didn't have a sound system. So maybe that's something to learn from for next year.
Thankfully, someone brought a wireless speaker.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
which served good enough.
Another thing to bring up, there is an internal debate in the office a little bit between Spotify and Apple Music.
Wow. And
we found that sometimes people would connect their phone to the wireless speaker and I'd be like, vibing along with the track.
Yeah.
And then it would cut to this foreign woman speaking that I'd never experienced.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's happening? They're like,
that's
this is an ad. I was like, what's an ad? They're like, we have Spotify free. And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You live and you learn.
Yeah. So next year's Airbnb.
Let's talk about this year's Airbnb.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that I do when I'm planning at a retreat is we need to find a suitable location. Mm-hmm. The majority of the retreat we spend at the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Because of sleeping, of course, but we try to find a place where we can use as our home base and has enough activities and space where we can spend our nights and we can spend our days if we choose.
Yeah.
And so last year, we went to Temecula. We flew into San Diego and then drove up to Temecula. Mm-hmm. This year, we're in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we found a retreat that is essentially a sprawling complex.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
When we were landing on the plane, I get a call from the Airbnb host, and he's like, okay, there's an alarm in the house. When you walk in, you want to immediately turn left. The alarm is through the doors in the butler's kitchen.
Right.
That's all you really need to know about this specific
I showed people pictures.
Airbnb.
They're like, oh, is that a hotel? I'd be like, nope. That's our home.
We had the whole place to ourselves. Because it's in Phoenix and a lot of the architecture is this way, there was no upper level and there's no basement. It's just one sprawling, almost like a strip mall kind of.
Yeah.
And there's multiple wings. Everyone had their own bedroom. One bedroom was hidden behind a bookcase.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to find it. We get to the Airbnb and I'm supposed to be assigning rooms to everyone.
Yeah,
and
you're
I was
just
like,
pushing books to try and figure out which bookcase it is
and then
how to
eventually
get
you found it. You pull it open and there's like a mini apartment behind this bookcase that had another
kitchen, bathroom,
another bathroom.
Yeah, amazing.
So this place was crazy. On one wing, there was a full bar and foosball, a poker table, a big old TV, air hockey. And then outdoors, really the true selling feature of this Airbnb for us was an outdoor basketball court, mini putt, table tennis, beach volleyball, a pool, a hot tub, and a slide, a splash pad, outdoor grill and outdoor eating area, cornhole, shuffleboard, outdoor bowling, a little outdoor driving range with a net.
Yes, my
an
favorite part.
Outdoor soccer field, artificial turf.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything?
A natural gas fireplace.
That's right.
Yeah. Did you mention the splash pad that
I did mention it.
There were no kids.
But there was a playground as well.
Yes.
So this had everything. And what was great about this and this particular space was there was a lot of space.
Yeah.
And I found that you would see moments where individuals or couples would withdraw because they needed time to themselves. I'd see Mitch and Laura and they're just playing a round of mini golf by themselves. It's like, oh, we've been in a group environment a ton. We're not necessarily used to this nonstop. And so let's just play a quick round of mini golf. There's a lot of space in this complex.
Yeah.
And so people could withdraw and make sure that they were, taking care of themselves, not overwhelming themselves with forced activities. And so that was amazing. And it also allowed us to take part on Tuesday afternoon in our first ever Office Olympics.
Yes.
So what we did was, there was 13 people on this trip. I decided to be the referee. Now, the house was stocked with pretty much everything that you needed. But some of the sports equipment was a little bit older than I would say is appropriate. So my wife and I, as you guys were at a coffee shop, I think, we went to Dick's Sporting Goods because I was like, where do you buy sports things in America?
Yeah.
And I go, Dick's Sporting Goods. We found a Dick's Sporting Goods, walked in. I got 2 brand new indoor-outdoor basketballs.
Yeah.
We got a beach volleyball. We got a couple of other little items. And then we're looking through the sporting goods items in the basketball section, but it's like, oh, look.
And then
look,
you see it.
That's cool. You should get that. And I was like, what? She's like, a referee shirt.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to get a referee shirt. She's like, that's the role you're playing in Office Olympics because we have 13.
Right.
That breaks up into 3 teams of 4.
Yeah.
So I got to be the ref. Now, I already had a pair of Nike, pretty tight, gym pants.
Yeah.
And my white Air Force Ones. I bought a Fox 40 whistle.
There you go.
And I was a walking Foot Locker employee.
It was a lot. It was unexpected. So we're all gathered. We're in our teams. We're gathered outside. And then all of a sudden, in the distance, you just hear this faint, and you can tell it's one of those metal whistles. And this guy just comes running out, the tightest pants you've ever seen. He's the highest knees you can imagine. And
shirt tucked in.
Oh my gosh.
Hiked up
and
real
here
high.
he is.
Welcome to the first annual Office Olympics. I will be your commissioner and referee. You will approach me and call me by ref, not Brady, not Mr. Shearer. Ref, understood?
And the Office Olympics was great. I personally was not looking forward to it.
I know you weren't.
I was just looking, and it's just because of the life I live. Like, I live a really busy life, like a full life. So a week in Arizona is like perfect. Like, just put me in the backyard, like, get me a Mai Tai, and I'm just chilling, you know? And you're like, yeah, Office Olympics for 4 hours. I'm like, no, I don't want to play beach volleyball. But we split up into teams, and there was something at stake. The winning team was going to win a $100 Amazon gift card each. So
4 people, each one would get $100.
So that inspired the competition a little bit, and we had a blast. It was long. Like, how long do we compete for? 3 hours?
Yeah.
It was long.
We are
the
washed.
The weather was perfect. It was amazing. We used almost every element that the backyard in the Airbnb had to offer, all of the sports equipment, and it all came down to one game of beach volleyball. It was amazing. So much fun.
I'm glad to hear that because you are a pretty athletic individual.
Sure.
I know he has this competitive nature. I can bamboozle him into getting competitive. But I was worried about some of the other people on the team that were not athletic, that don't normally do these activities. Right. And I heard from a number of them, and they were like, didn't think I would enjoy this, but we had so much fun.
Yeah.
And I think that there was a lot of preparation that went into this because I had to understand, okay, how are these teams going to work out? I need to assign points to each individual game. There were 3 different rounds.
Right.
And some had to be group games, but some had to be individual ones as well. And then the way I had to do the scoring system with the beach volleyball was that once we got to that final round, if you won the beach volleyball tournament, you'd win.
Yeah, it's like any trivia game. It's like every question is worth 1 until the end. The last question is worth 10,000 points.
Exactly. And so in the first round, I actually, as the ref, was able to inject myself into the competition because I couldn't keep myself off the basketball court, apparently. Yeah. And there were 3 different teams. So we would play 3 games of bump, let's say, knockout, whatever you call it. 3 rounds of another game called Thanks for Coming Out, which is a basketball game. And what would happen was I would play on each team for each round. Right. And that way I got to be involved. But also it would just add a little bit of a wild card.
And when it got down to beach volleyball, you assumed your role of referee. You kept the court tight, and it came down to a winner takes all scenario. It was a blast.
And who took home the win?
Well, by the last round of the last game, you had incited enough a competitive spirit out of me that when I got the ball in my hand, and my wife was on the other side of the court, let me just paint.
Allow me to paint this a little bit. Now, picking and putting together these 3 teams was difficult.
Sure.
Because obviously you want to create fair teams. You never know how people are going to perform. And also, there is this balance between guys and girls.
Sure.
And so one team had 3 guys and 1 girl. One team had 3 girls and 1 guy. And there were some that were like, this probably isn't fair. To which I said, let's just let it play out.
Yeah.
Because there was one particular woman that was on one team that another particular man may or may not have chosen to bully.
Yes. I did not choose that. It was chosen for me. I was put in this situation, and I was trying to get other people on my team to serve. I'm like, please, I don't want to abuse anyone on the other side of the court. Just somebody else come serve. We'll make it fair. And enough voices were around saying, look, Kyle didn't take it easy on the basketball court.
He didn't.
Mitch didn't take it easy when he was paired up against Roxanne on the basketball court.
He did not.
Me and Kyle fought it out to the death on the ping pong table.
Best of 5.
So when it came down to it, the game is on my hand, had enough voices convincing me it's time to take advantage of your wife. I did it. And so I just peppered her with serves one after another.
Alex is doing these overhead serves, and he's just crushing his wife. She's diving out of the way. He's hitting aces. She's getting knocked in the chest.
The best part is I'm on one of the finalist teams, and she's on the other finalist. So either way, the Mills house is coming home with $100.
It didn't matter. You were like, this has only bragging rights.
Yes.
And I must win.
The thing about Office Olympics, though, was it exposed how old we're all getting.
Oh my gosh.
The next morning, my body just betrayed me, and I was limping out of my room, and I saw other people, and my face was full of shame because I can't walk. And I said, like, kind of whispered, like, Ryland, like, are you in as much pain as I am? He's like, yeah, like I'm dying. I was like, perfect. I felt vindicated because Ryland's a little bit younger than me. He's a lot more active than me right now. I was like, okay, I'm not as old as I feel in this moment.
And it's hard to explain just how non-demanding these Office Olympics were. The word Olympic is in there,
mini putt.
But like we did soccer free kicks. You just had to kick one ball.
One shot.
We did like the hardest game was bum/knockout, where you have to like shoot a basketball and then run to get it if you miss and make a layup. That was the first event.
Yeah.
Everyone's like bent over, sucking wind, hands on knees, trying to compose themselves.
Yeah.
Even I was like, what have I done?
Yeah.
It's so hot.
Yeah, it was a challenge. But the Office Olympics weren't the only kind of group activity that we did.
We also did Top Golf.
Oh, yeah.
Which you and I had done before previously.
Needs to come more north. Because
doesn't really exist anywhere near us. At all.
If you don't know what Topgolf is, which we didn't know until we were in Sacramento a year or two ago, think of a bowling alley, but for golf. So there's a gigantic, driving range ahead of you, but you have lanes very much like you do in bowling, and you just wave your little golf club over a sensor, a ball comes out, and you hit it. All the balls have microchips in them or whatever, so it knows where they go, and you get points on the screen. There's food, there's drinks. I need more Topgolf in my life. I think that was a highlight of a lot of people's trips. It was so much fun.
Which I did not expect.
Right.
Like, I thought, this would be fun, but people, like, Topgolf requires you to kind of be good at golf.
Yeah,
like, not
and golf
mini putt, like driving the ball.
And golf is hard if you are not familiar with it.
Golf is the worst.
Yes.
Like, it will push you to the edge.
Yes.
Like, I thought someone will get pushed to the edge in Topgolf and just go over.
Yeah.
But people absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
We had an outstanding food tour downtown or Old Town Scottsdale, which went to 3 or 4 different local shops.
It was awesome.
The leader of the tour, Zach, was like, okay, you're going to love it here. But it was also a mix of history. We learned about Scottsdale, previously Orangedale, who would have thought?
Yeah.
And we also got to experience some of like the local drink as well, which a lot of people wanted to do. And we only have so much time.
Sure.
So this food tour worked perfectly, a confluence of all 3 of those factors into one. We also did shopping. A lot of the people, this is probably the most divisive thing that I knew was going to come up. Some people just don't like to shop. I'm one of them. I'm going to do online shopping. I'm that husband that like, you've got 13 minutes of me at a shopping mall before you're dragging me. And I'm like that meme of the little girl that's stuck to the carousel with her hand, and it's just dragging her in a circle.
Like, I'm not
over
going
and over.
into a store just to look.
No.
Like, if I'm walking into a store, it's because I know that what I want is on the other side of those doors.
Yes.
I probably know where what I want is. I'm going to walk to it, try it on if I have to, which I likely don't, check out and leave.
I'm an efficient shopper. This is not recreation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And that was probably a dichotomy that existed across the whole team.
Sure.
So what I did was I took a note from this. I saw someone on Facebook who talked about a Christmas bonus that their team did. And this was what the employee decided to do.
Okay.
It's also a little bit like Michael Scott in The Office.
Yes.
I believe this was an Igniter Media Christmas bonus thing that happened. I didn't hear it directly from Rob.
Okay.
Heard from someone who knew Rob. Anyway, took out $100 in American cash for each person. So then we get to the mall, and I hand out $100 to each so that it leveled the playing field for everyone. Some people were like, I don't really have any money to spend. This is awkward. Some are like, I do not want to spend money. But that like made it so that everyone has some money to spend. And even if you aren't able to spend it, here's some cash.
Yeah.
I do have money for you guys to shop because everyone here deserves to shop.
Hundos!
By 1/3 of a pair.
It was awesome. Very generous. It was a surprise also.
Yes.
And yeah, super fun. And it wasn't long. We spent, I think we had about an hour to shop. The weather wasn't great that day. It was kind of cold, and we were at like an open air kind of outlet mall. But yeah, lots of people got stuff that they wanted. Some people found stuff that they didn't know they wanted. It's always nice to shop at different stores when you're in a different country, stores that we don't necessarily have in Canada. We all swung out and missed on AirPods because they're sold out everywhere, looking for those AirPod Pros.
Those were the only white Air items you were looking for.
Oh my
Allison
gosh,
was
trying to
looking
find
for
a white pair of Air Force Ones. You just can't.
No.
So, but we had a great time.
Absolutely. And that brings up another important element, the element of surprise.
Yeah.
So I put together an itinerary in Evernote, and I shared that with the team ahead of time. It's always nice to kind of know what to expect. And we made it clear some things are going to change. Like, for instance, the first thing on the list was let's go shopping when we landed. But we were 2 hours late. No need to waste daylight. Like, let's push that to Thursday and go straight to the Airbnb and enjoy that space. But everyone knew ahead of time what to expect. But then I had another itinerary called Phoenix Private in a private Evernote that you were not allowed to look at. And it had the full rules for Office Olympics and it had all the surprises planned. So one of them was shopping, $100 to each person. Another one was Roxanne had been working. She's the only one that doesn't have a desktop at the office.
Right.
She works on a laptop because she doesn't do video editing. Her primary role is customer success. And her laptop was a couple of years old and she had been starting to struggle with it a bit. And so on the first night, we gave her a brand new laptop and that was a surprise for her as well. And then we also did this thing that I took from a company called Help Scout called Warm Fuzzies. Sounds weirder than it is. But the first day, what we did that evening was we all sat down together in the living room, and each person on the team had been required to collect affirmations, favorite memories, or what everyone else on the team loves about a certain person. So for instance, Alex had gone to each team member and got a warm fuzzy for Kyle, for Kyle. And then Kyle had done it all for Ryland, and Ryland had done it all for Alex, and so on. And so this was an amazing way to start the retreat. We all sat down. It's been a long travel day. The flight is 5 hours. It had been delayed 2 hours. We'd all been up at like 2 a.m. now, local mountain time. And it's 7 p.m., but it's also the first day of a trip, and we've been waiting for this for so long, so we've got this energy. We all sit down, and we go through one by one, reading out what people had said. And again, a testament to the team, everyone had gone above and beyond with what they had written about each other. And I think we started with Mitch. And Mitch got through like the first one, or Roxanne got through the first one reading Mitch.
We're
and
all
like,
just
we're
crying.
just like, we're done. Like we're finished. Like Rebecca starts crying and I see her crying, so I start crying.
It's over.
And we're just done. And again, this was an idea from Help Scout. It did an amazing job, I think, of galvanizing the team at the very beginning. And this was one of those light bulb moments, I think, for people where they realized, oh, I've never fully grasped how people see and know me. And how much they care for me. And sure, we all work together, and that's been one of our most unfair advantages for sustaining our relationships beyond high school and through this transient phase of young adultness, where so much is changing. You're buying your first home, you're moving every 3 years, you're trying to get a new career, maybe you have a kid, maybe you get married, so much is happening. You're in charge of your life now. And what happens is your relationships are one of the things that generally suffer. And by employing all of us here at Pro Church Tools, we've been able to bypass that in a lot of ways, which is tremendous. And this was a moment where everyone got to say how they have been affected by the other. And there were things that were said about me, which was a surprise. You guys had gathered things about me as well.
We got you.
There were things said about me where I had true like light bulb moments of, oh, I never realized that meant so much to people. Like some of them in particular were people said, like, Brady, you're like extremely loyal. Like you just stick it out with people. And another one you said was like, you see something in people before they see it in themselves, and then you call it out in them. And I just always thought I was kind of smart. Like, that's, what do you, I'm good at talking. I'm good at like looking at problems and finding solutions. But once you had articulated them, I was like, oh, I think those are true about me. And so you're like calling out my own identity and like things that you see in me that I can't even see in myself.
So good.
It's just, that stuff is like priceless.
And I don't know if there are other people like me or if I'm just alone here, but I don't do a very good job of saying the things that I'm feeling or thinking. And this will happen all the time in my marriage, right? Like Rebecca will say like, oh, I wish you would have said that. It's like, oh, but I thought it. And she's like, right, but you have to say it. So I know you're thinking. It's like, oh, right. Okay. So next time I think that, I'll say it out loud. And this activity that was, required of us kind of forced our hand and gave us an opportunity to articulate, to say the things that we're all thinking, And I think maybe people don't struggle with it as much as me, but I know that there are things that we all think about people, especially the people we work with, that we don't necessarily have an opportunity to say, you know?
Right.
And so this moment, we were sitting there maybe for an hour. This moment, there were very few dry eyes in the place at all after we started. And while we were reading these things to each other, I was sitting there thinking like, this is beautiful. We're in Arizona. It's hot and sunny outside. It is not hot and sunny at home. So it's very easy to like, just everything is good right now. We're on vacation. Everything's good. But a lot of the stuff that was being said, and while it was being said, I was thinking, oh, when we get back home and get back on the grind, and in 3 months when it's still snowing outside because we live in Canada, it's dark, it's like, and work is hard again, I think I'm going to be able to recall this moment and some of the things that I said about people, some of the things that were said about me, some of the things that were said about us as a company, and remember, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is who we're doing it with. And it's almost, I feel like that moment is going to be like ammunition or fuel for us at a future time. It was great then, and I think it's really going to help us again in the future when we need to fall back on it.
And maybe you're not planning a week-long retreat where you can take your whole team to an exotic location. Maybe you're planning a single-day team-building activity. Or maybe you could just do this specific Warm Fuzzies activity at a staff meeting on a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon. This activity, the highlight for me, set the tone for the entire rest of the week. And it allowed the opportunity for unsaid things to go said. And if there's any takeaway that you, the listener or viewer, are going to take from this episode, I can't overstate the power of this activity. And I think we will do it again in the future because we have such poor internal talk about ourselves so often. Hearing affirmative talk from others, prophetic, calling out things within each other, those types of words and sentences that we then gathered and we've shared with everyone, so we have them as keepsakes as well, again, can last for months and years and decades. And you can look back at those things and remember, oh, this is what is true about me, not what I'm saying about myself.
Cultivating a culture of encouragement is just going to go a long way for whatever team you belong to, at church, at work, at home, wherever you're doing teamwork. Cultivating that culture of encouragement, this is one way to do it. It's going to go a long way for you and your team.
The final thing we want to hit on, there is a practicality of being on a work trip and not really doing any work.
Sure.
We still had to make sure that all of our users were taken care of. And there are different types of retreats, different type of team building activities, days, weeks, weekends. Maybe you're trying to brainstorm vision for the future. Maybe you're trying to do like culture building, or maybe you're just trying to blow off steam, which is what these weeks generally serve for us. But we still had to make sure that people's conversations were being responded to. And so what we did this year, which was new, because last year what we found happening was like a few select people were kind of just always tethered to their phones or devices, like, oh, okay, there's a new conversation. That can wait. No, I got to get this right now. So we had support power hour. Again, an idea that came from Help Scout. So at 11 a.m. on each of the 3 days that we were there, and then on the airplane when the airplane Wi-Fi allowed us to, we would spend an hour where the entire team would get out their laptops and just plow through as much support as possible.
A little offensive that our significant others got to just hang in the pool during that power hour, but maybe we'll revisit that for next year. Maybe we'll give them designated jobs to do during that time.
Right. They can't necessarily get on a call with a Nucleus user.
Like clean the kitchen or something.
Exactly. They're out there sunbathing. It's like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, like maybe do a load of towels or something.
My goodness. So that we found helpful as well. It, I think, allowed the freedom beyond that 1 hour each day for people to enjoy themselves and
it gave us peace of mind, because it is, especially when we're involved with live support for customers, which again may not be very applicable to your church context, but for us, it allowed us to have peace of mind at 3:00 in the afternoon when we were doing the Office Olympics, to not be worried about that conversation that we left open or whatever. It's like, no, we had, and we let our customers know as well. We set that expectation for them too, that like we did what we could during that hour, and sometimes it turned into 90 minutes or whatever, and let our customers know that we're going to be doing this again tomorrow. We're going to be here for you. We set those expectations. And then just yesterday in the Facebook group, I made a post about our retreat, and I said, hey, you may have noticed, our response time was a little less than instant. And I had people responding saying like, you guys were on a retreat. I didn't even know you got back to my question so fast. So the support power hour was definitely an essential for us.
And I think that's everything that we have for the retreat. We will be back in just a moment with top 5. So this week I published a post on Instagram, and it was this video post. It had these animated graphics, and one of the comments that we got was, this is always the comment that we get.
Always.
Is, how did you make this post? And normally I respond with, we made it with Photoshop, we made it with After Effects. Because what people are getting at when they ask that question is like, well, like what Canva template can I use to recreate this? Yeah. I was in a bit of a mood. And so this person goes, how did you make this? And I just responded, employees.
You're not wrong.
And then I was like, okay, I need to like elaborate. So I screenshotted that and I posted it on Instagram stories. And what I said was, I'm not trying to be snarky here, but
I am in a mood.
Probably need to move beyond this idea that an app, there's like for design, for social, for these things in church where we don't normally have employees, we don't normally have professionals working on them, that there's just this app that will solve everything. Like there's this one-click solution that we can download it from the App Store and create this stuff. What we're seeing with social as it evolves and as it becomes more saturated is that the quality is continuing to increase. Yeah. You can't just, post something that is poorly done and expect to get maybe the same results that you would even 12, 24, 36 months ago, certainly. And the point I was trying to make was there are solutions, but you're going to have to concede something generally. Yeah. If you're still not in a place where you can hire a full-time person to take care of this, or you are a professional yourself, or you have the capacity to learn the skills, there are solutions. And this is where we think Nucleus Social can solve a wide range of problems with churches that are dealing with the struggles of social media. Yeah. And I got a message yesterday from a church of 8,000, they said. And they're like, Nucleus Social has been everything for me. I'm in charge of this church of 8,000 and I use it. And I think there's this misconception sometimes that if you're a small church, like canned content is the way to go. And if you're a big church, you can create it all yourself. Right. But I have not found that to be the case. There are some smaller churches that are full of creative professionals that can do everything themselves. Yeah. And there are some larger churches that still don't have those individuals who are ready to work or ready to volunteer to the degree that is needed. Yeah. And so with Nucleus Social, we try to cover the entire spectrum of social media supplementation or your entire social media presence. Yeah. You can go to nucleus.church and you can get 30-day free trial. But here's what I mean by that. If you are a church that is ready to take social seriously, but you have virtually no presence, we have daily done-for-you posts that you can just publish and you're good to go.
You're done.
If you're a little bit further along the line than that, you can use those posts to supplement what you're already doing. So you can post your own content, and then on the days where you don't have something, because every single day you wake up and social's like, so what are we doing today? Yeah. You can use our content to supplement. But what we also give you is the source files, the After Effects templates, and the Photoshop files. So if you are someone with a bit more skills, if you've been with us for now, like the full duration that Nucleus Social has been in existence, you would have 500 plus After Effects templates and Photoshop templates. Yeah. If you go to a place like videohive.net, an After Effects template is like $15. Yeah. So do the math. Do the math. Yeah. That's a lot of dollars. Yeah. And you will have church-specific comps. When I started talking about this on Instagram stories, I got another message. And this person was like, where is this? And I was like, in the social tab. And they're like, I didn't even know this was there. Yeah. It's like, you have this post about what's your favorite breed of dog. He's like, that would never work in our context. Apparently they're all dog haters. Whatever. Okay. He's like, but if I can change that to what's your favorite sneaker, that would go off like crazy. And I was like,
you can.
I've been creating content for moms and I should have been creating it for sneakerheads this whole time. Of course, what was I thinking? And this person was able to use After Effects and Photoshop because they have those skills. And they were able to take the layers that existed, tweak the text a little bit, and suddenly they have a brand new post that is custom to their context, but leveraged our team of employees.
Absolutely.
Because when I say the answer is employees, you don't necessarily need to hire. You can leverage our employees. Yeah. We have animators, we have videographers, we have copywriters, content creators, photographers, designers that are all working to create all of this content. And then there's even another step where if you want us to customize it for you, because you don't have the skills, but you still want it to have that tailor-made approach. We can customize it for you. And if you want us to post all of it for you so you never have to open up, we'll do that as well. And so the reason I'm saying all this is because every church is unique when it comes to social. There are things that you can do and there are things that you cannot do. And Nucleus Social is there to fill in the gaps. Maybe you just have 1, 2, or 3 gaps. Maybe you have 100. We can fill in every single gap or just a few of them to supplement what you don't have already or to create something that doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
Nucleus Social is the place to get it.
Yes.
You can get a 30-day free trial, and we will give you 30 of our best performing posts with 30 Photoshop files and 30 After Effects files.
You get it all.
We're not withholding the source files on the free trial.
Yeah.
We probably should.
Yeah.
But whatever.
We probably should because people can download them and change them however they want. So they could just make infinite iterations of those posts.
You could.
Go ahead.
Nucleus.church is the place to sign up for the free trial. You can find that all in the social tab. Of course, with your free trial, you also get web, sermons, media.
Yeah, we just have a habit of just like giving it all away. Like, here you go.
Yep, absolutely. Top 5 for this week. On a previous episode called Why Your Church Slogan is Bad?
Something like that.
That does sound like an episode title that I would create. Why Your Church Slogan isn't good enough. See, it wasn't so negative.
Yeah,
Just, it could be better.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just, it could improve.
It opens the door and says like, it's a little bit good.
Right.
It's just not good enough.
It's just not good enough.
Yeah.
We did a top 5 talking about the 5 rules of driving that, when broken, upset me the most.
Yes.
And I felt like when we did that episode that I had gotten it off my chest. I'm the type of person that I can't have any bitterness in my life.
Right.
Not saying like I don't want it. I literally cannot have bitterness.
Right.
It just doesn't exist. Once I get something out there,
it's gone.
I'm free of it.
Yeah. So you weren't mad at those people anymore.
No. And I got rid of those things.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I've talked about these issues. I can't change it, but I have done my part in educating Pro-Church Nation at least.
Yeah.
They won't be the offenders.
Yeah.
Then
you got in your car.
Within days, I started noticing all of these new offenses that enraged me even more.
Part 2.
Part 2, top 5 driving rules, offenses that you just can't make. You can't do these, people.
Please don't.
Now, normally in reverse chronological order, I get angrier as we get closer to number 1. These are all equally terrible.
Right.
Number 5.
I'm angry already.
When you are at a stoplight and there are 2 left turn lanes, there's 2 of them.
Oh, this happened to me this morning.
And it's not just like you start leaving you enter the intersection and it's just a free-for-all.
Right.
There are lines throughout the entire intersection of the turning lanes for each individual lane, because governments and city planners know that human beings in their cars are reckless.
Yep.
And what happens every time? Every time people turn left and they're on that outside lane and they infringe upon your inside lane. Yeah. Where are you going to go? There's a pole to your
there's
left.
a median there.
Or people are on the inside lane and they just drift.
Just drifting to the outside. I just got to take this one a little wide.
It is wild. People are generally pretty good at staying in the lines on the roads. Sure, you might see a little drift here or there on the highway, but there is nothing like someone turning left and just deciding this whole turning area is mine. I will infringe where I choose.
Yeah, and I have this intersection at my house. I go through it every day. And what happens is, so it's a green light, so there's opposing traffic as well. If there's 2 lanes there, if we both obey our lanes, we should both be able to complete that turn at the same time.
Right.
But I know based off experience that the people who are turning right, I'm turning left, people who are turning right always cross the lane because they're going to Tim Hortons. And I know even though the light is green and my lane is open, I can't trust them. So I have to sit there in the middle of the intersection, wait till all that traffic is cleared because I know I can't trust people to stay in their own lane.
That's such a good point, because that isn't even on this top 5, but it's a totally different issue. Yeah. Like when people are turning left and you want to turn right, and there's 2 lanes. So they can turn into the inside lane on their side. You can turn on the inside lane on your side, and everyone can turn. And what happens? You sit there and you don't turn. And then people behind you are beeping or are upset like, you can turn right. And you're like, no. I know I can. But that would require trust in other drivers.
Yeah.
And what happens? The one time you turn right isn't when that other person is like, oh, I decided to turn left on 2 lanes. This is totally normal. Yeah. No, it's not.
Whenever you're making a turning maneuver, just stay in your lane.
It's not hard.
Once you complete that turn, hit that signal again, make your move.
A signal?
Yeah.
Do cars come with those? Number 4.
Make your move.
Not taking up all of the space in front of you while stopped.
What is this about?
People want to live a life of luxury. And so they pull up to an intersection and there's like 2 car lengths between them and the car in front of them.
But I've never understood what the point is.
Exactly. What is the point? Now, you could say that on the other side. Brady, what's the issue? We're all going to get through this at the same time. Like, whether they're moved up or not, we're all stuck here and we're stopped. Here's the issue. myriad of different problems can occur when you are inconsiderate of those behind you. If you are stuck at an intersection and you leave all this space in front of you, lights are not infinite. And what happens is you have to make up the space in front of you.
Exactly.
And this is not meant to stereotype, but if you're the type of person that will leave 2 car lengths in front of you just randomly at a stoplight, you're probably also the person that when the people in front of you start moving, you're not going to notice. Yeah. And that car is so far in front of you that in your peripherals, you will not notice them creeping forward in the same way. And you're on your phone, and suddenly you made it through the light, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Just one
because
possible
you
problem.
left a car length ahead of you, so there is some sad car behind you who should be occupying that negative space, and they're going to have to wait for that light to cycle through again.
But that's not even the worst thing that happens. Here's the actual worst thing. So let's imagine you're at an intersection, and there's one of those right exit lanes that you just have to yield in. So you can get into that lane, and you don't even have to, you don't have to see the light.
Yes.
So what happens? This is what normally will happen.
There's one right over here by Tim Hortons.
That's the exact one I'm thinking of. It's always a Tim Hortons problem.
Yes.
Don't go to Tim Hortons. You'll get up and you can like see just a bit of light ahead.
Yeah.
And you're like, if this car in front of me will just inch forward,
I could squeeze through.
I'll be able to squeeze through. And what does that car in front of you do? They're a good human being. So they do everything they can.
Sure.
And there's like an inch of space between them and the person in front of them. And the person in front of them has 7 car lengths between them and the person in front of them. And they don't realize that you're trying to get through because 2 cars behind them is where the issue is happening. So you can't
It's a domino effect.
Exactly. You have to make sure that you take up as much space that you can. Now, you don't need to be crazy. We're talking about like 6 inches to 24 inches.
Yeah.
But if you have multiple car lengths, a single car length, 5 feet, you are probably doing damage.
What are you trying to do? Leave room for the Holy Spirit? Like, what are you putting there?
This is not a middle school dance. Pull in. Number 3, people that turn in front of you, but they didn't have enough time to turn in front of you, forcing you to slow down.
Well, yeah, this is literally how you create traffic.
Yes.
Like traffic on the highway is not a thing.
True.
In most cases. It's not a thing until somebody brakes.
So this happens on highways when someone will merge lanes in front of you. You're in the fast lane. You're trucking along at 70. You're living your best life, 120 in Canada. And this person pulls in front of you because they want to pass the person that's in front of them, but they're only going 60. So suddenly you have to brake for them to pass? No. If you want to come into my lane, I have established the speed in this lane.
Yes.
Realize how much time you have and adjust as necessary.
Yeah.
We all seen that in the highway. It's just as annoying, though, when you're on like a back road, one of those faster back roads. So in Canada, we got
lots
these
of
back
those around
roads.
here,
You know, you're driving 80 in the country.
Kilometers an hour.
Exactly. Well, maybe you're going to Alex Mills. Maybe it's 45 in America or something. And you are driving, it's a single lane road, and you're going at a really good speed. And there's this person that's on a side road, and they've pulled up perpendicular to you. And you're like, they're not going to try to pull in front of me, right? They're at a standstill. They're not going to turn right onto here.
In a Corolla.
It is amazing how often people misjudge this. They don't understand the laws of thermodynamics. They do not understand speed. They do not understand driving. They do not understand signaling. They don't understand space in front of their cars.
Can I tell you a story I've never told you?
I'd love to hear this story.
So I'm on a back road.
Sure.
Just down here. Speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour. I was doing a round of that. Like I wasn't flying.
So it's like 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, so I was doing like
45.
85 probably. This exact thing happened. I was on my way home from snowboarding, driving my mom's brand new Jeep. I got 2 friends in the car. So I'm driving along. Somebody pulls up. It's not a throughway intersection. They can only turn.
Ooh.
Okay?
So they're going to turn in front of you
or with me.
And turn left, or they're going to turn with you.
So I'm driving and I see them. And the only reason that we made it out of this was because I watched it happen.
Which you're always doing. You're guessing. Are you going to be an idiot today?
Exact same thought process. I'm watching that. And my sister-in-law actually taught me this rule before I started driving. She says, watch their front wheels because that'll signal like if they're going to move or not. Don't look at the whole car. Look at their front wheels. So I'm watching and asking myself, are you going to try and pull out in front of me? Because I already know based off the distance, it's not safe for you to do. So of course they go and they don't pull into my lane. They pull across.
Ooh, the across.
There was so little space that I'm doing, 55 miles an hour. I had to swerve to the right towards the ditch. This is how little space there was. I'm in the grass, lose traction. I fishtail back across the road, across oncoming traffic, which thanks be to God there wasn't any. And I hit a mailbox, but not just any mailbox, His mailbox is mounted on this pole that is solid steel. So it's not like I obliterated a wooden mailbox. The mailbox stayed exactly where it was, and it literally tore a hole in the side of my mom's brand new Jeep over the gas cap, which of course necessitated that the gas tank be removed and be replaced. It was remarkable. And the best part about this story, it's like it was a film. So we hit the mailbox, because it's solid steel, throws me back in the road. I stop on the side of the road. We're like, whoa, that was something. We look back, and on the property where the guy's mailbox is this guy no shirt on, sitting on a lawnmower, just completely stunned.
Well, he knows it wasn't your fault.
He watched the whole thing transpire. And so he probably saw his life flash before his eyes, because if that mailbox wasn't there to throw me back into the road, who knows what would have happened to this poor guy in the lawnmower. But he, thanks be to God, was basically a witness. Of what happened. He saw the whole thing. He was able to vindicate me as far as my parental units were concerned. And then also when it came to like making a police report, because the person left. They didn't stop. He was able to say, like, this is what I saw happened.
How did you track them down? Did you get the license plate?
No, we never tracked down the person who pulled out.
Just to insurance and...
Yeah, so we went back to the guy with my parents after I drove home. We were like, we need to go back and talk to that guy. And he was happy to talk to the police. And,
talk to Dale.
Yeah, so just
Dale
don't pull out on people.
So that's an extreme. I think an equally worse situation is when you mildly inconvenience me and I have to go from 55 to 35.
Right. Yeah.
Like...
And then they're the kind of person, it's like, okay, now I brake, now we're speeding up again, and they drive under the speed limit, so you have to pass them anyways.
Number 2, cutting corners while turning. Now, this may sound similar to being at an intersection and having 2 lanes that are drawn out in paint, and you can't stay in your lane because you're a child. Like my daughter can draw in lines better than you can drive in them. This is when you are at, usually it's a stop sign. So it's a 4-way stop.
Okay.
And what happens is people are trying to save 1 fraction of a second. And instead of staying in their imaginary lane, they do an incredibly cutting of the corner. And let's say the driver's side by 30% pulls into your lane.
Right. So if you're sitting at the stop sign.
Yeah. And what always happens is they do this on blind corners and they're like, I don't see anyone. I can do this. But what they don't see is you pulling up. So I can't even stop at the stop sign. I have to stop 6 feet short as you, in your incredible laziness, save 0.2 fractions of a second and almost like swipe the front of my car.
Yeah, you can't even get up to the white line where you're supposed to stop because they've cut off that corner. Yeah.
There are imaginary lanes that you have to understand and stay within them. Yeah. Now, is that asking too much? Yes, because you can't stay in the ones with paint.
Well, I mean, there is a white line to stop. So if you are crossing that line, even though you've missed your imaginary ones, that's a signal to you. If my tires touch that white line, that's not my line to touch. That's the other lane's stopping limit. So, I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah. And yet,
there are indicators on the ground.
Of the 5 things on this list, this happens to me more than any other.
All the time.
Because there's so many stop signs and people are like, oh, I'm just trying to exit the subdivision. I've been at like 4 4-way stops. You know, I'm just going to save some time here. And then I had to slam on the brakes. Look, there's a hedge. You don't know if I'm here. Observe the hedge.
Okay.
Mind the hedge.
Okay. So we've talked about on the podcast before about how your mom calls you rule boy. And
mind the hedge. There's a freaking hedge.
And I can identify with that a little bit, and it's directly applicable to the situation, but in the inverse. When somebody pulls over the white line, so they're stopped, but they've stopped past the white line.
Just at stop signs or also at
stop sign in an intersection, if it's a busy 1-lane street and they're waiting to turn across traffic and they move over across the center line to wait to turn to let the people behind them go around. Anytime that somebody just breaches their stopping lane a little bit, but it happens a lot at a stop sign where people will kind of poke their nose out just to try and, I don't know, see more or whatever. When I am turning, I will turn as close to the front end of their vehicle as possible because they've breached that stopping line. And as I turn, Rebecca hates when I do this. As I turn and almost brushing the front quarter panel of their car, I'll just look into their car and stare at them as I make my turn, just to let them know, like, you've come into my lane here.
Mills justice. Yeah, no, I do that all the time. And so they're like, if you're not going to obey the rules, I will enforce them upon you.
Yes.
Because no one else is going to.
Yes.
I'm making citizen arrests out here.
Yeah.
All right, number one. This one's a bit unique. It happens a bunch because we live in a small town where you're driving through the city streets and you can't go super fast.
Right.
Sorry, this happens in any city streets, not just small town. So in Canada, we're talking about speed limits of 40 or 50 kilometers. Yep. So in America, maybe that's like, 20 and 25.
Sure.
What happens is you get on a 40, which is the worst.
Yeah, school zone.
And in our region, may not be Canada-wide, but in our region, if there's a 40, no one drives 40, everyone drives 50.
Right.
If there's a 50, no one drives 50, everyone drives 60.
Sure.
If you're the type of person that drives the speed limit, it feels pretty slow. If you're the type of person that can't even get to 40, it feels like a snail's pace.
Yeah.
So what happens is you'll get behind someone in a 40, and they're going 36.
Yeah, just not necessary.
And like you can run faster than that almost. Like it feels so slow. And they're just taking their sweet time in already a slow zone where people generally speed. So it feels like going about half the speed you normally would.
It's like exacerbated.
And the rules of the universe always play out this way. This person going 36, and you can see it coming from a mile away. As you approach the first light, and you're like, I don't think we're going to make this light. If we were going a normal speed, we'd make this light.
Yeah.
I can see the stop sign hand flashing on the crosswalk. It's counting down 10, 9. I don't think we're going to make it. No. And then what happens? This person that's in front of you that has made everyone behind them slower, they don't make the light, and they go through anyways.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people going 36 will go incredibly slowly through a yellow turning red light.
Yeah.
So you just went slow and obeyed these rules to the nth degree and then blew a red.
And then literally leave you in their dust
And then
to
I'm
sit there.
sitting at the stopped light like a fool.
I always wonder about people who drive under the speed limit. Like, I just wonder, like, are you not frustrated with yourself?
If you're married to someone who does this or you do this yourself, please let us know. We need to understand.
Yeah,
We're
like,
okay to empathize, but we need to hear your story.
Not that I'm in a rush all the time, but are you not frustrated with yourself that you're literally arriving somewhere slower than you are legally, like, permitted to? Like, you could at least drive the speed limit. Like, you don't have to break the law. You can drive 50 set your cruise control on 50 if you want. But if you're doing any less, don't you get frustrated with yourself knowing that, like, well, I could have, actually the law allows me to be here sooner, but I chose not to.
You could, but why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? If you have any driving laws that you're upset,
We're here for a part 3. We'll do it.
like I feel like, I've gotten this off my chest. I'm ready to live in freedom. I'm going to discover.
We're going to go to
more.
lunch after this, and something will happen between here and there. It's like a mile down the road that's going to be like, oh, part 3. I've got enough for part 4. Yeah.
Top 5 will just become only top 5 driving rules.
Yes.
Close out this episode with a question.
Not about driving.
Correct. Comes from a person in Pro Church Nation. They say, hey, I manage a social media account for the youth ministry of my church. Since I've taken over, I've increased engagement using your methods and more, but I've stayed stagnant on growing followers. Do you have any advice? When it comes to social, there are 2 different verticals that you need to be considering at all times. Very similar to church growth, in fact. One is increasing the engagement with your existing audience, while the other is finding new people to join the audience.
Sure.
When it comes to social, the ways of accomplishing these 2 different verticals almost never overlap.
Right.
There can be some transfer growth that happens if you have an incredibly high engaging post, for instance, that can be seen by more people organically, and then they perhaps may choose to follow.
Yeah.
But generally, you need to be taking 2 different approaches to these 2 different goals. I have yet to find a repeatable strategy that will work at accomplishing both of these simultaneously.
Right. Yeah, me neither.
There's no content guide. There's no specific post that you can try where you will engage your audience in a big way while also predictably gaining new followers. This can happen in organic ways. For instance, to me, the other day, we posted on Instagram a 60-second or less video about Mike Todd's preaching styles. Now, Mike Todd saw this because we tagged him in it, and he has about 1 million followers on Instagram. He shared that to his stories and to his own feed, and then about 500 people followed me on Instagram. And this was a thing that happened organically.
Yeah.
But that is not predictable. It is not repeatable. It's like going viral. You kind of never know when it might happen. You just need to follow best practices, and then maybe eventually it will happen, but you don't want to count on it. It's more like, just a cherry on top. And
but that actually is a good tactic that shouldn't be overlooked. Tagging other accounts to expose yourself to new audiences. So like at Christmas time, we packed bags for a local women's home. And so we posted about it on Instagram, tagged them, and then also posted a story and tagged them, which gives them an opportunity to share it if they want to. And if we don't have similar audiences, they're sharing our stuff to a new audience. There's going to be some traffic that overlaps there. So that is actually a good tactic when used properly to expose your account to new audiences.
Right. The point I was trying to make is that it's probably not going to be someone with 1 million followers.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can work on the margins.
Yes.
But even people, they commented like, your account's about to blow up. And I went from 23,000 followers to 23.5 thousand followers. Like, no, like that was growth.
Sure.
But, marginal.
Yeah.
Considering. Things that you can do organically to engage your existing followers, we talk about all the time. Create good content, stop the scroll, provoke spiritual practice, build meaningful conversations. And then when it comes to reaching new audiences, those 3 things will probably not work with that. Stop the scroll will work all the time, but it needs to be combined with other strategies on Instagram hashtags, collaborating with other accounts, hosting contests that require, you can speak to this a bit, that require your existing audience to tag others.
Absolutely.
Has that worked for growing on your account?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had one post, the type of post that you just mentioned, where like it kind of blows up organically, and you get a lot of traffic and follows from it organically. I have one post out of all of my 500 posts that has done that for me. But yeah, hosting contests, and not just hosting them for the sake of getting followers, but hosting contests in a mindful way that adds value to people will definitely increase followers. It's a great way to expose yourself to new audiences, and having unlimited entries. Like when it comes to a contest, because you want people to tag as many other people who don't follow you as possible. So just say unlimited entries, tag as many people in the comment sections as you want. So I had a contest that I ran that had over 1,000 comments because I said unlimited entries. Most of those people who were tagged in the comments didn't follow me. So, I gained a few hundred followers during the lifespan of that contest because I gave people an opportunity to expose my account to new audiences.
And maybe that is an example of a content strategy that will engage your existing audience and reach new ones.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily repeatable unless you have unlimited things or cash to give away.
Right.
You probably can't do that every single week like you could a countdown post or you could a question post 3 times a week. And that's kind of what we're getting at here. And then the most tried and true method of reaching new audience is paid ads.
Sure.
That's what has built our audience here at Pro Church Tools. We had, 3,000 organic email followers through SEO, and then we used paid ads to light a fire on that, basically gas on the existing fire rather. And now our email list is, 75,000. And that could have happened organically, but the easiest way, the fastest way is spending money.
Sure.
But of course, not all of us have disposable income to do that. But what you always need to consider is that the overlap between strategies for growing your followers versus engaging your existing followers generally doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You're going to have to look at those each uniquely. And this is why when we talk about church growth and measuring church health, what we don't like about just attendance numbers is that it really only cares if new people are coming to your church. It doesn't account at all for the existing people in your church becoming more like Jesus.
Yeah.
And similarly with social, just because you're doing something that is not leading to a ton of new followers doesn't mean it's not doing what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
Social is incredibly complex. It's always evolving and changing. And that's how we talk about measuring. And we talk about all the best tactics and the right strategies to follow. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, there is no silver bullet that will be employed, tactic that will solve all of the issues.
Yeah.
It's a moving target. all the time.
It sure is. And increasing engagement can happen pretty quickly. If you start posting better content for 30 days, you're going to see your engagement rates increase like pretty quickly. But organic account and audience growth does not happen overnight. It's very slow and patient work. But it does happen like a snowball. So when you're an account of a few hundred, you're going to see maybe 1 new follow a day, 2 new follows a day, maybe. But when you're an account of multiple thousands, the growth is exponential. You'll see 10, 20, 30 new follows a day. And that's just slow and patient work. That starts with posting better content. And as you post better content, you'll see your engagement rates grow quickly, and your account will slowly and surely, and your audience will slowly and surely grow from there.
As always, we appreciate your attention, your viewership, your listenership, Pro Church Nation. If you have questions, follow-ups, things that we maybe need to clarify about the team retreat or whatever it may be, drop it in the YouTube comments. That's the best place to interact with us. Alex and I are both very active in the comments, youtube.com/ProChurchTools. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.